This is the 21.5 Show.
You're on 121.5, the emergency frequency.
Whether you're a professional pilot or want to be one, you're in the right place.
Let's get started.
Join professional aviators Dylan and Max as they talk their experience in the airlines, business aviation, and more.
Life is good.
Industry experts, unique stories, and plenty of fun. This is the 21.5 Show.
Here we go.
We're back. It is the 21.5 Show, a show by professional pilots for professional pilots. Max,
Yes.
you are looking absolute fire tonight. You are in the quintessential Max outfit, t-shirt, 21.5 hat.
Looking absolutely fire tonight.
Max and his lovely bride made a Pookie video the other day for us. If you don't know what we're talking about.
If anybody knows what that is, you should be ashamed. But
yeah,
it's just idiots.
I would guess about half do. Oh,
yeah,
man,
let's move
so
on
bad.
quickly before we lose that. Before we lose half of our audience.
Speaking of you and your quintessential outfit, I tried to wash my 21.5 hat and completely ruined it. So
What else? You throw them in lakes in Canada.
yeah, ruined the other one. Good news is we are ordering more as we speak.
You're going to need to start reimbursing the company for this.
Yeah, big announcement coming soon. Welcome to the show. If you're new here, hello, my name is Dylan. I am a pilot in business aviation, joined, as always, by my better half, the fire half, Maxwell.
My name is Max. I am a pirate in general aviation, business aviation, powered parachute aviation, and the airlines.
It's a whole thing, as Max would say. Max, we have so much to get to. I'm in training. This is a fun thing we like to do. I'm at the hotel. You're at home for once. It's usually the reverse. Can you identify the brand of hotel by the video screen here?
No,
I'm not giving you a lot.
Let's see. Crown Molding.
Mm-hmm. Carpet
You're
floors.
obviously a Marriott loyalist, so it narrows it down. Is that wait, hold on. Let me see the bed real quick.
Oh, riveting for our listeners.
Yeah,
Incredible.
that's a Westin for sure.
It is Westin Heavenly
Boom.
Bed. Good
God,
call.
that is sick. I'm not happy about that at all. That's like being platinum for life. That is not an accomplishment that I want.
Yeah, exactly.
I would take it if I was there.
That is the way it goes if you're a pro. Just a little peek inside what it's like to be a professional pilot in the hotel. All right, well, Max, we're going to have to drop this sound effect in after the fact, but I'm sad to report that we heard from a listener and the furlough flute was played.
What?
Yep.
Kidding me?
Yep. One of our listeners sent us a message. Flying for Raven, Alaska wasn't in the cards. Cue the furlough flute. The adventure will continue. There are more opportunities out there, and I will find them. And that's from Tom Goes to Infinity and Beyond. But it looks like Raven laid off nearly a third of its staff recently.
Why?
So,
Like, what's it attributed to, you think?
I don't know. I'm guessing that they have less passengers and cargo to carry than they want. That's just a guess.
Huh. Crazy. Well, hopefully that's not the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah, exactly. But sorry to hear it. And shout out to our listener, Tom. I'm sure you will find another opportunity soon. Write us a flight advice and we'll be happy to help you find your next adventure. Moving on to something sad news, Max. We haven't talked about this, but a few weeks ago, that Challenger crash in Naples. I would think most of our listeners at this point know what we're talking about.
Yeah, the dead stick onto the highway, right? Is that what we're talking about?
Yep. Videos came out of dash cam and you could actually see that Challenger.
Yeah, I saw it. I saw the dash cam video.
Yep. So the NTSB actually just dropped their preliminary report today. I don't know if you saw that. Just caught it. I quickly glanced through it, read a little bit about it. For any folks that don't know, unfortunately, both the pilots lost their lives in the crash, and then there was 2 passengers and a flight attendant on board, and the flight attendant essentially saved the passengers because both the main cabin exit and the emergency exit were unusable, but she was able to get the baggage door open, and they were able to escape out the baggage door. So really hats off to her for saving the passengers. And so it's been, obviously I flew the 604, 605 for 10 years. So I've been pretty plugged into the conversation. And everybody's still kind of a head scratcher in the community, to see an airplane that was flying, had been in the air for almost 3 hours, I think, on its way down to Florida with no issues, and then have a flame out there right before landing. A dual engine failure there is kind of a head scratcher. Everyone's been waiting to get this NTSB report. We'll have the link in the show notes if you want to check it out. The main interesting thing that I saw in there was that they were able to determine that there were 2 CAS messages within 1 second of each other of the engine oil pressure on each side, each engine.
Well, it's probably because they're
1 second of each other.
Had spooled down.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah. Right. Yep. So
at the same time,
within 1 second of each other. Yeah. So that is an indication that the engines were probably shut down, which I think is
interesting.
what we all suspect anyways. But
so sometimes there's these accidents that are pretty apparent what happened, or you can draw some pretty confident conclusions. And there's another one that really shook me. Like, it's been over a year now. But did you ever watch that show Flying Wild Alaska?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
Jim Tweedo, who was like the dude,
Jim Tweedo, yeah,
and had been flying the backcountry of Alaska for 30 years or whatever. He died like a year ago in a crash.
Yeah, I don't remember the details, but
he's 185. Yeah, and it's like a lot of times, especially in general aviation, you see people crash for making decisions because they're inexperienced or whatever, right? And a lot of times, I do all the time. Like, that I would like to think that wouldn't happen to me based on where I'm at in my aviation career and hobby and everything at this point. But that one shook me. I'm like, if that guy can lose it in the backcountry, like, it just goes to remind you it can happen to anybody at any time. Like, and maybe he wasn't as vigilant as usually is that day, but there's certain ones like that you're like, whoa, you're not immune for sure.
Exactly. Could happen to the best of us.
And this Challenger was the same way. It's like, you lose both motors in a swept wing jet at low altitude. That's a tough hand to play.
Yeah. It appears the crew did everything they could to try and salvage it. But I just know from the simulator, I've done some dual engine failure stuff at low altitude, and there's no FADEC on those engines. So it's not like they can auto relight or do anything super quick. Like, so you've got to react. Some operators don't run ignitions all the time, for takeoff and landing. Some do. So it's just like, it's not one of those things where it's just like some of the newer technology airplanes where they can just relight super quick. So you don't have time.
It will be interesting to see what the final report says.
Yeah.
Wish it didn't take so long.
I know. I wanted to bring it full circle, and that you kind of mentioned flying in Alaska there. We got a message from our friend Liz up in Alaska. You remember Liz? She wrote the children's book about aviation. Yeah. And we've had her on the show before a couple times. Yeah.
Give me a Liz update.
She said, I just listened to Max's story of flying with his dad from episode 110. If listeners recall, you and your dad were flying in your Murphy Moose, and you were kind of encountering some weather, kind of like what you're talking about now, in the decision-making process. Anyways, she says, listen to the story from episode 110. The more intense decision-making process he described sounded a lot like everyday flying for me. Instead of talking it through with whoever is in the airplane, my objective is to make it look like I am completely unconcerned about the situation so passengers won't panic. It was a great reminder of the constant assessment of weather, daylight, icing, fuel, passenger comfort, and what podcast to listen to next. These are all part of what makes remote Alaska flying experience so valuable. Thanks as always for providing entertainment, educational content, and a peek into the more structured side of the industry. So
yeah,
that was kind of timely.
You know what that sounds like?
Yeah.
Exhausting doing that every day.
Yeah.
Because that's a lot.
All day long.
That's demanding flying. Takes all of your attention. It's good for you, Liz.
That's right. We continue to be impressed by you, Liz. Keep it up. All right. Anything else you want to mention before we dive into the mailbag?
I am so deep in online training right now. You have no idea. I'm just getting bombarded from all angles. I know, but it's getting worse, dude. Because I just finished international procedures training, which was good. And for all of you that are thinking, why did you go through that? Why didn't you just find one of your buddies that has a certificate? Because the LOAs are not pilot specific, they're operator specific. And you can just, I can say, hey, Dylan, send me your IPC stuff and put you on there, because I didn't want to. And it was good review and I need to do it. And we
take the high road here.
Well, Christian needed to do it too. So it's a whole thing, but it's good. Yeah. And we discuss, and it's all good, but
it's good.
I finished that. And then they're like, oh, you also need aircraft specific CPDLC training. So now I'm in flight safety online training, and Southwest Airlines is going to be onboarding paperless releases and stuff. So now I'm going to have this training for that. That's on my iPad So I'm renewing my real estate license currently as well, all simultaneously. So
Wow.
it's a lot. I know it's a lot, but I will say I did finish Advanced Aircrew Academy's International Procedures training, and it was very good. It was, I was impressed.
Good.
Shameless plug.
Thank you for your continued endorsements of that program.
Yes. Well,
I guess they've got a good product, and they've continued to be a longtime sponsor of this show. You can check them out at aircrewacademy.com. Find all of their offerings. Max, did you do it on laptop or iPad? Does it work on both?
a little of both.
Okay.
This is kind of fun.
All right.
So have you ever used an Apple Pencil?
Mm-hmm.
It was funny because I was on the plane. We were traveling with, my wife has one and I didn't have one. And I had split screen of continuing education on real estate on one side, just kind of let it run. And then I had my international procedures training. But it was so small on the iPad, I kept like mishitting the quizzes on the real estate. I'm like, can I see that pencil? Is it, you just click. That thing is awesome. Now I bought one, and Christian, we're like writing clearances, the whole thing.
It's really cool.
Big Apple Pencil guy now. It's really nice on your iPad.
Yeah.
In
really
my
nice.
case, has like a special like holder for it, like not just where it clicks onto the iPad. Because I was worried it's going to fall off because it's not a very strong magnet. But the pivot cases that pretty much all the airlines use has like a big molded, like you can jam it in there so you won't lose it. It's really cool.
I've started to use. There's a scratch pad feature.
It is. It's awesome. And scratch pad in ForeFlight or whatever you use, right?
Yeah.
Super handy. And that's the thing I was thinking about. Like when we go paperless at Southwest, like, how are you going to write the clearance? Where's, I don't know.
Got to do it.
Apple Pencil.
Unpaid ad read for the Apple Pencil.
Yeah. You'd think we all use iPads so much that would be like part of the deal, but no.
Yeah.
I feel like
we would have figured that out by now.
Doing this years ago.
All right. Well, you got the ad read out for Advanced Aircrew Academy. So nice. Killed two birds with one stone there. Let's read a couple of reviews, Max.
Quickly.
We're through the podcast slaps reviews. We've made it through that portion of the review segment. Well, we do have some new ones. If I don't know if you've got that one up.
Yeah, I got it. A banger for sure. This podcast is a banger. As an aspiring professional pilot, I enjoy listening to this just for about everything aviation related, from GA stuff to airlines and everything in between. Keep it coming, boys. Thanks for the great content. And that's from Janilla87. Is banger better than slaps?
I like banger way better.
All right, go ahead.
Yeah, it's an absolute banger. My 8-year-old says that now
I
for
know.
his YouTube channel.
It's
All right, next one, Pilot Without a Plane. New listener / retread. Thank you for your podcast. I recently started listening to it on my hour commute to work and have enjoyed your witty banter and conversations with relevant subject matter experts. I recently got my medical certificate back and looking for a career change to possibly Part 135 operations. Thank you, and keep up the awesome work.
All right. We got a YouTube comment on the the very controversial Roger Reeves content.
Yeah.
From JQB22. He says, of all the podcasts he's been on, this one I think was the best. Great listen. Would love to hear a check-in with Roger in the future. I'm sure he's racked up more stories everyone would love to hear. Were we just talking about that?
We do need to check in
about checking in with Roger, see what he's up to?
Last time we heard he was in Israel, which, I mean,
that was like a year ago, though.
So hopefully he's doing okay. Yeah, we'll have to cycle back.
Yeah, we do need to check in with.
To the mailbag, of course, brought to you by Advanced Aircrew Academy. The first email says, I'm writing to formally request that the 21.5 podcast levy an opinion on guard antics. I would like you to debate, then judge cat noises in guard police on 121.5, and then finally to pound the gavel and tell your listeners whether guard is the place for sophomoric noises and other frequency congestion. I am requesting this on behalf of all pilots and all air traffic controllers who are required to listen to 121.5 at all times. Pick two of your friends to act as attorneys for the defense and the prosecution, then let's settle this once and for all. Only 21.5 has the reach to settle this important argument. Thank you. And that's from Mike.
This is very important. He's right. Wait, you go first.
Here's my opinion. This is not going to be popular. I'm just going to confess it right now.
Are you the guard,
I don't monitor
please?
guard that often.
You're not?
I don't monitor guard.
You got to monitor guard, dude. What's wrong with you?
Yeah. For a dude with a podcast called 21.5, you'd think I'd monitor guard more.
That should be on your 10,000 foot flow.
It's...
What? Then you miss all the entertainment.
I don't know what to say.
That's the best part.
I mean,
it is hilarious.
Obviously, probably at Southwest, you're required to, right?
Mm-hmm. But we do anyway. And I do it all the time.
Yeah. every time I do it, it's at the most, there's always someone talking at the most inopportune time. And then they're talking while you're getting a transmission, and then you're trying to mute that frequency. It just conflicts. I don't know.
All right.
What are your thoughts?
You provide no real opinion here. So I think we are going to have to wait. We need Ted to levy in this discussion.
Oh, yeah. That'd be a good one. But I guess he'll have to be a judge.
Yeah.
You're not playing anything on guard, right? You're not meowing.
No, I don't get pissed off about it. I think it's funny.
No.
Like,
yeah, I don't get angry about it.
And then obviously the best part about it is that the guard police who thinks they're a warrior for guard is the funniest part. That's the funniest part, is that they don't get that they're being so funny. And it always seems like you can just picture the dude, right? It's older captain. Look,
it's always a dude too. Yeah.
Here, let me set them straight.
Yeah.
This is for emergencies.
It's exactly what happens when, you and I both have boys, and our kids mess with each other. And the only reason they do it is to get the reaction.
For the reaction. That's what they don't get.
That's it.
It's like trying to put out a campfire with a 5-gallon can of gasoline. It just gets worse. Yeah. It's so fun. But that's the funniest. That's the funny part. It's not the meows. It's the person gets pissed off and going to set everybody straight. That is the hilarious thing. Because then everybody who wasn't meowing or whatever then just totally jumps in, which congests the frequency even more, which is obviously counterproductive. But it is funny.
That's why I'm saying it's just
here's the thing. Nobody's on there reading, a 10-minute story. Like, if there's really an emergency, everyone would knock it off instantly, I think. Like, if your center come on and be like, whoever.
Well, yeah,
everyone's
but here's the
quiet.
problem. Here's the problem, though. They can't hear. A lot of the transmissions are from like smaller GA airplanes that are lower down. And so it is still blocking the frequency.
I don't know. I've listened to guard another person transmitting for a very long time, and I've never.
Yeah.
But I'm sure there's opinions all over. And yes, it is a little childish, and it is. But, listen, it's boring up there.
You're not going to stop any calls for people to stop doing it are not going to work. Yeah. So
don't worry. I'm pretty sure none of the guard police people is our demographic in this podcast. I don't
Exactly. That's why I just
venture to say that most of them don't even know what a podcast is.
Yeah.
So,
and I'm ready to receive some hate mail for me not monitoring. I'm sorry.
So here's the thing. I'll tell you where guard, we have these radios on some of the older airplanes, and instead of having a flip-flop button that puts the frequency in, from the standby into the actual frequency window, it's a little switch. And basically, so if you're listening to the one on the left and the switch is to the left, and then you get a frequency change, you put it on the knob to the right and flick the switch to the right. So you can see the obvious problem, because you're continually tuning both sides of the radio depending on where the little switch is.
Oh, yeah.
So give you a frequency. We've all put the wrong frequency in, right? Well, if you simultaneously put it in wrong and you put it on the wrong side, now you've messed up the frequency you were on. And sometimes you don't really realize that.
Yes.
So you're flicked over and you're like, and all of a sudden you hear on guard, Southwest, you're like, wait, what radio was that on? Why was that so low?
Yeah.
So
it's useful.
Those radios are a disaster. Like, those things have got to go.
In the 737.
Boeing would have to get, a replacement airplane certified.
Sure.
So,
oh, no, they can't do that.
That's a whole nother. They're just getting hammered right now, huh?
Yeah. What's going to happen?
Well, the thing is,
doors?
Dude, the whistle was blown years ago. Remember, do you watch that documentary, right?
There's been several. Yeah.
But that thing was so graphically, like, with hidden cameras with the employees. Like, I cannot believe this is. Now it's so front and center. I mean, will that force company culture change? It's going to have to some extent, right? I mean, they can't continue operating the way that they have since merged with McDonnell Douglas. So
it's not like you're going to close their doors tomorrow.
No, dude, that's the thing. I mean, with the military contracts, everything, they're definitely in what the government is coined too big to fail, right?
Exactly. So it's just like,
I don't think that's going to happen. But dude, these delays, like on the delivering airplanes, you saw just in the news the last couple of days, Ryanair's cutting flights because they don't have airplane. We're screwed. We're flying around these old clapped out 700s because there's no replacement. We should have been flying the MAX 7 a long time ago. And then now with this engine heat situation, do you hear about that?
No.
So there's a problem with the LEAP motor where if you leave the engine heat on and you're not in icing conditions, it can damage the composite nacelle. Right? So, they basically put all this stuff out and it's reminding the pilot to definitely not operate the engine in ice and ice conditions, right? Well, part of this review now, the FAA says that is not good enough and they need some sort of automation. Like, when the TAT gets to 11 degrees, it automatically shuts it off or something like that is what I'm assuming. But they're saying relying on the pilot to do that is not sufficient to certify these newer MAX models. So the airplane is just not built. There's no ICAS. There's no, it doesn't have that level of automation and integration to do that. Like the 280, it detects ice. It just turns on the ice, I don't know what they're going to do.
I know exactly what they're going to do. They're going to go into the laboratory and create Frankenstein's monster like they've done with every other required upgrade to that airplane and figure some solution, workaround that's going to be some
when you say that, but I fly the MAX 8, it works just fine. Like,
I know it is what it is. It's the problem.
It's just another engineering solution to all of these.
You have to, which is what you have to do. I mean, you have this massive ocean liner moving through the water. It's like you can't make.
And what do you do? Oh, you know what? You're right. We'll just develop a new airplane. That's going to take.
Hold on. We'll just get that right out to you guys.
$5 trillion in 20 years. It's just a bet.
Yeah. I mean, it's just like like you said, too big to fail. So. I don't know.
Too bad another manufacturer can't develop a new really good airplane and bring it almost to certification that they could just buy.
Yay, Bombardier.
What a drag.
We are tangent achieved here. Okay, on to the next hot topic. This is the email we got, topic we got tons of emails on. Surprised. Guys, your Diamond Dog dispatcher from episode 85 here. I've been riding the jump seat as a dispatcher since 1999, and I wear a headset 90% of the time. As I see it, we are a non-required licensed crew member, in that if there was an incident, we'd be subject to the same FAA and NTSB scrutiny as the operating pilots. Observe serial cockpit, and I usually leave the mic plug out. Ears only. And that's from Matt.
I don't disagree, nor do I fully agree. I guess I'm somewhere in the middle. But yeah, I wonder if there's ever been anybody that's been like in the jump seat. I mean, they certainly would be questioned, but could you get some sort of scrutiny, but like enforcement? Like, you think like there's responsibility?
I don't know. Somebody
has had to have like, some sort of possible pilot deviation with a jump seater on board.
Hey, speaking of jump seater with scrutiny, remember the jump seater that tried to pull the fire handles?
Yeah.
Have you seen any follow-ups to that?
No.
From an FAA enforcement? I haven't.
I think that came like right away.
Well, I know there was like legal charges, but I don't know.
I think they had suspended all of his FAA stuff too.
Yeah, I haven't seen that. You want to go with the next one?
Just listen to your episode where you answered this question. I agree with what you guys said. I never plug in unless someone offers, and even then, I typically don't if it's my airline. I've had some captains oddly insist that I plug in, and then I'll oblige. It gets even more awkward when they insist you plug in, but don't acknowledge your existence for the entire duration of the flight. I just thought it was interesting that everyone has their own thoughts and beliefs on jump seat etiquette as a whole, but especially with plugging in the headset. Jared.
Next email from Sam says, hey guys, as a former guest on the show, episode 62, he was our AQP expert. I was very interested in the discussion of how instructional design is used in Part 135 training development to improve flight training. Having studied ISD academically with its use in AQP development, I was hoping to hear how adult learning theory, Bloom's taxonomy, and the principles of ISD were being applied in the 135 world. Instead, what I got was a bunch of Air Force war stories. I was very disappointed. We need a do-over. Okay, Sam, that's good. Well, I need to apologize for that episode because that was with Dave a couple episodes ago in 115. We had some audio quality problems too on that one. So I do agree. That was a challenge for us. We
Sam,
were not able to get
I probably need to apologize because as riveting as Bloom's taxonomy and the principles of ISD are, for some people, now I'm not saying me, but I'm just saying some people don't find that quite as interesting. I think sometimes I might poke the bear for some Air Force stories and things just because some people out there, I'm not going to say who. So that's all. I'm just trying to keep everybody happy, Sam. That's all.
Keep it light. Keep it light. Yeah. The problem is every other aviation podcast is talking about that stuff, and we just don't want to cover the same ground.
Well, Dylan, just for Sam, would you mind just expanding on Bloom's taxonomy just a little bit for the listeners? Just for like, if there's anybody out there that doesn't know what that means, would you mind?
We all know about the 6 pillars of Bloom's taxonomy: knowledge, comprehension, application, analysis,
This is so not
synthesis,
fair.
and evolution.
Because I put him on the spot and then everything failed and our connection went. So he researched it in the meantime. All right, we'll move on. You killed my joke.
I mean, listen, I don't want to
Well
shortchange
played, sir.
Benjamin Bloom.
Well played.
Yeah. Max Engelhardt, Edward First. A lot of people contributed to that. So
All right.
we appreciate the email. Thank you for calling us out, Sam. We love it when our listeners keep us honest. We're trying to do the best we can, but next time we're going to do better.
Hey, fellas, I'm a big fan of your show. It has truly helped me to gain some insight into the industry. I'm a law enforcement helicopter pilot working on getting my airplane PIC hours up for ATP minimums to make a career change to the airlines. I recently met Dylan at the Phoenix airport while waiting for our breakfast in the terminal. Dylan gave me some stickers, and I wanted to return the favor by sending some unit patches to you guys. Do you guys have a P.O. box or other address where I can send some swag? Thanks for the fantastic show. I look forward to each episode. Take care, Josh. Finally, the river flows the opposite direction. I like it. Thanks, Josh.
Oh, I love this, Josh. Thank you. That was great to meet you in the terminal. It was kind of funny because we were ordering burritos before our flight, and he was behind me in line, and he just looked at me and he's like, "Do you listen to the 21.5 podcast?" And I was like, that's like the first thing he said. And I forgot I was wearing my 21.5
no,
hat,
that
which
just sucks.
Yeah. Oh, those guys are clowns. But I forgot that I was wearing my hat, which I've since ruined. And I was like kind of taken aback, like, because it was just so like out of left field. And then I was like, oh yeah, my hat. So anyways, it was cool. Really appreciate your saying hi. And we got to chat for a couple of minutes. And I've been carrying more stickers. Do you carry any stickers in your flight bag to hand out?
No, you don't give me any.
Oh.
Very stingy.
You just don't give off that vibe. Yeah. Okay. Here's a fun one to share, Max. And this came from Mike. He said, I sent one of the pilot retention episodes to my chief pilot. Shortly thereafter, we got large raises and Harvey Watt loss of medical insurance.
Damn. That's awesome.
So that's awesome. Congratulations, Mike. I mean, it makes me feel good. Makes me feel like we're helping folks.
We're only looking for 10% of the raise, not of the whole salary, Mike, just so you know.
It's fine.
Info at 21.5 podcast is PayPal.
No, he took care of us. Don't worry. Okay, Max, we have been called out by multiple friends and online about this suitcase review, luggage review podcast we've been saying what we're going to do for, I don't know what, a year at least. So we finally reviewed the final bag, the Luggage Works Stealth Aurora, which everyone asked us to do. You and I each took it on a trip. And on that trip where I was reviewing the bag, we got this email. It says, I wanted to reach out to you to share a company info with you guys. We have the first completely new ground-up redesign of a flight crew luggage in decades. This could be a good story for you guys to check out. And that's from Derek.
Not yet. We will reveal the bag. I'm very excited about it, though. I looked at it, I was like, whoa, this is my jam.
Yeah.
We were right there. We were ready to review, and then homeboy sent us this email. So this thing
came through. This is like nothing else we've ever seen.
Yeah.
So we're going to have to delay this to be able to include this in the review. So bear with us. We will get this out soon.
Yeah.
Our new producer will help us stay on track. Yeah. It actually just showed up at the house today. So you should run over there and go, thank you for sending us a review copy, Derek. We're looking forward to checking out. That is going to do it for the mailbag. If you'd like to be a part of the conversation, you can reach us at info@215podcast.com. Be happy to read your comments on the air in a future episode. Always appreciate hearing from our listeners. And now more of hearing from our listeners with flight advice, Max. We've got a couple. I put 2 down there for you. So while I do the ad read for Harvey Watt, I want you to read the 2, and then you tell me which one we're going to do. Or if you've got time, we'll do them both. Okay?
All right.
So for our listeners who know that flight advice is brought to you by our friends at Harvey Watt, harveywatt.com. You can find all of the offerings they have for professional pilots around the globe. Loss of medical insurance, pilot life insurance. That's what I've got. It's awesome. You can go on the website, check it out. You can get a quote online to figure out what your loss of medical premium is going to be. Just answer a couple of quick questions, bring it to your principal and say, listen, why don't we throw this on the old compensation plan? It is a no-brainer. If you're a professional pilot, you got to protect that little white piece of paper. HarveyWatt.com. On to flight advice. Okay, Max, you read the first one and I'll read the second.
So I'm kind of caught in a weird place. I'm currently at a Medivac company out of San Antonio, and I'm afraid that I will get too comfortable here. We are 7 on, 7 off. I've done 1 overnight because the airplane broke, and I'm on track to fly about 150 hours for the year based on my last 6 months. I'm only 29, but with soon to be 2-year-old and a baby on the way, my goal has always been Southwest or United, but the quality of life in my current company is what most pilots dream of. I like what I do, but I don't want to fly beach jet for the rest of my life. Gear up, lights in, yacht amp on. P.S. I'm consistently doing little things around the house, and whenever my wife asks why, I respond with, "You just got to innovate." So shout out to our old boy Dave.
Such a great...
There's nothing wrong with staying where you are if you like it and it suits you and it's what you want to do. Like, I feel like in the last couple of years, there's been a lot of people that think that they have to go do something because everyone else is doing it.
Yeah.
And you have to do what's right for you. And if that's staying in business aviation, like my cohort here, or, staying and flying Medivac or whatever, I mean, that last thing you want to do is regret decisions you've made, right? Because you just did what you thought you were supposed to do, where everyone else is,
Yep.
So that being said, it is easy to get a little comfortable, and then all of a sudden it's been 20 years and you're like, what did I do? So you should always, and I think most of the time that comes from people not consistently evaluating their current position, right? Where this guy is evaluating what he's doing, right? And comparing that to what's available. And I think that's how you arrive at making what's the right decision for you. I don't know. What do you think?
So let's look. We've added some questions onto the flight advice form, which are very helpful. So let's review a couple of facts here. Age 29, San Antonio, and kids. So he's specifically asking about Southwest or United. So both of those have Texas bases. Probably you're looking at, for San Antonio, I imagine Houston's your closest, right?
Well, you say, San Antonio. Yeah, we'll see it, but San Antonio, yeah, Houston.
You're good. That's drivable, I would assume.
It is, but most San Antonio people, I think, commute and fly.
They're going to commute. Yeah. So I guess that would be the question is, are you planning to relocate or are you locked into San Antonio?
Dude, we don't have those answers. So you got to go. Here's the thing. Yeah. He mentions quality of life, right? He's a big quality of life guy.
Yeah.
7 on, 7 off. He's not doing many overnights. He's home all the time. Didn't want to fly the beach jet. It's interesting. He doesn't mention the compensation anywhere or benefits, right? But you have to assume he's taking those in consideration. But unless you have a very unique, really good Medivac job, I think if you have the experience and you want to go to United or to Southwest, like I said, people always look at it because most people go to those airlines and they never leave, right? That doesn't mean you can't leave. The thing is with a lot of these, like this job, if you go and you're like a year and you're like, I'm just miserable. I cannot do this for another, 25, 30 years. And you can always go back. Going back to getting a Medivac job, I think is definitely within the realm of possibility. So that's the thing. You can try the airlines. You don't have to stay there and see if it's for you. And if it's not, then go back. But the one thing, at least you'll know. Unless this job is something that's really, really special and you can't replicate and you think if you leave, you'll never be able to go back. Well, that might be a different story.
Okay. Now I want to ask one more element here. He's got 1 kid on the way right now. The first year at an airline is going to be the most challenging. Obviously, the compensation is going to be the lowest, but in general, this is not always the case, but in general, you will be gone from home the most that first year. Especially if you don't live in base. I don't know if I'd say gone.
I mean, it's not that much. It's mostly that you don't have control. You're working on the weekends. But where he's lucky is that is way better when you have very young kids because Sunday and Wednesday are the same. There's no difference. There's no baseball games. There's no school and having out of school. There's no difference. So I think the argument can be made that slugging out the junior, the low man in seniority at an airline is best done with young kids.
That was going to be my point. Was like,
sorry, I stole your thunder again. Huh?
No, my point was like your window with the kids is like if your wife's up for it and you've got some family support, probably from a career standpoint, it is I think better to be gone. If you're going to be gone more at that younger age is better than when they're 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 playing baseball and all those other things and and they remember a lot of that. So just another thought. If you're going to make that jump to the airline, I think the timing would be good because you would be more established when they're a little bit older.
And if you're really concerned about your quality of life, move to base. Next question.
Yeah, exactly.
Go ahead.
Well, this next one is basically a similar email. It says, hey, fellas, I've got a tough one for you. I'm 36 with a family. I currently fly for a major oil company out of Houston, Texas. I love the company, schedule, and people I work with. Pay is 90 percentile for super midsize. We have a pension and also 8% 401k contribution. I work about 8 to 9 days a month and usually average about 20 to 30 overnights a year. I have 4 weeks of vacation with the ability to trade trips when I need, so the schedule is about as good as it's realistically gonna get in business aviation. Just about all of my peer group has left business aviation for the airlines. I got that FOMO bad, even though I've never really aspired to go to the airlines. I'm having a hard time here. Help. P.S. I have applied and plan to interview at Southwest.
I think you should take the stab at this one first.
Man, I agree. This is about as good as it's going to get in business aviation. This is my personal evaluation because I'm in a similar situation of being in a good business aviation spot versus the airlines. And what it came down to me is I looked at, if you're going to stay in business aviation, you want to have a job where you're flying, for me, like 8 to 9 days a month. And if you're flying much more than that, especially if you live in a base with Southwest, it doesn't really make much sense to stay in business aviation. If you're gone, 15, 16 days a month flying in business aviation, you're going to be gone less at the airlines. So I think that actually checks the box on the amount of time he's flying because, he's going to, in theory, would be home a little bit more. So, there's that value of time versus money that you could kind of maybe use to balance the fact that, highly likely that the person at the airline is going to make more money. So I don't know. It's a tough one. Personally, I'm so fortunate that I flew at the airlines before, so I know a little bit about what it's like, and I just know I don't enjoy it as much. So is there a way to take a leave
at the
of
regional
absence
level
from that company? Yeah. But I mean, there are some things that are still similar.
for sure.
If the nature of your corporate flying is that you're flying to 1 or 2 destinations all the time and there isn't much variety, then you may lose some of the perceived advantages of business aviation by staying, because I know, like for me, I love that there's something new and you're going new places and there's new challenges, and I like the dynamic environment of it. And that's not true at every business aviation job, especially if you're at a bigger department or maybe you're just ferrying employees from one, office to another, and it's the same thing every day. So those are the things that I weighed. Time and variety and excitement going to work, like, ooh, this is fun, this is new, this is exciting, this is something different. So that's how I evaluated it.
And that's why I wanted to do both of these, because I think that the whole thing I was saying before about you can try it or don't leave because you think you should or everyone else is doing it. And if you're really truly happy where you're at, there's nothing wrong with staying there. Now, from what you describe, the pay is going to be better. The 401k contribution is going to be better. You're going to get more vacation and you're going to have a lot better benefits, probably, like as far as loss of license, disability, company paid life insurance, yada, 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 right? We all know that. That's the big draw. And the other thing, which I've discussed previously, is that in a corporate flight department, it's such a wide variation in your schedule, whether it's a 2-pilot, 1-airplane deal. When the jet flies, you got to fly. You got to be there. That's it. Where he has that ability to trade and kind of move his job around his life, which is huge. That was a huge thing of going to the airlines for me.
Yep.
So he kind of has that, but you do live where it's Southwest, since you mentioned that, has a base, and that's huge for your quality of life. Just is. You're going to be taking a pay cut initially, and that's why sometimes for these decisions too, it's a lot of math involved, because you will make more money ultimately, but you won't for a while. And so that you got to have someone to figure that out, which, is a good time to call our friend Timothy P. Pope to run those numbers for you and figure out a financial plan and where your break even is when you're back in the green and making money. But at the end of the day, if you got a good gig, you're happy, and you think it's going to last, there's nothing wrong with staying. But there's a lot of people have left business aviation for the reasons we've discussed a million times, and that it is a hard thing to say no to, because the deal was very good and it has gotten even better. It's specifically at Southwest, it's gotten a lot better. with this new deal. There's been a lot of very meaningful changes that are big that you just don't see in business aviation. So, and last thing I'll tell you is that if you've already applied and you do plan to interview, we've always said, don't say no until there's something to say no to. A lot of times that showing up to the interview and having that experience and being there at the headquarters and that whole thing, sometimes that changes people's view quite a bit. And they get either really excited, it could be either way. Who knows? It just depends if it's a good fit for you. But sometimes people go there and they're like, look, I really want to be a part of this. Even if you don't have your decision made up, show up to the interview. That may help make the decision for you.
Yeah, those are good points. I have two more thoughts that occurred to me. One, I would say the challenge in business aviation, especially when you're at a bigger flight department, is that there can be leadership changes in the director of aviation and chief pilot that can drastically alter what a job at a flight department looks like. So there is more exposure there to change. So even though you're in a really prime situation now, there could be a change down the road. Now, to counterbalance that, I would say, which makes this decision even tougher, you're in a good business aviation city. Houston, there's a lot going on there, as you know. And so you do have options. You're not locked in. It's not like you're at the only flight department in Bismarck, North Dakota, where there's the only people that are flying a jet, and you kind of got to ride with it. So just some additional thoughts, but I don't know.
No, that's a good point, because that's always been the problem with business aviation is it could be so good until it isn't, until something happens and they sell the airplane. We always talk about that, but this could be even more common than that scenario where it's great and then the leadership changes or the rules of the game change. The thing at the airline is you have a CBA, you have a contract, and you live and die by that contract. And that's not going to just all of a sudden change one day. That's part of the stability. We talk about the stability of, not having airplanes sold out from under you, but it also is the rules of the game stability. Like that, you're right, because we've seen that happen.
Yeah.
We've been witness to that. That's tough.
Yeah. But the flip side of that is you're in a big market where lots of other business aviation opportunities are there. So like, it's not like you're stuck if you do stay.
Right.
There are other options. So yeah, both interesting questions, both kind of dealing with some FOMO. And I think that's the root cause. And, really, I think for both of the folks that have written in, and it can be hard, but as you get a little bit older and you start to get more established, you can actually start to think like, what is going to bring me fulfillment? What are my goals? What is going to make me happy long term? And that's hard when you're just starting out because you're just like, I need to make more money. I need to get the next job. And you're kind of hustling. And then there's this point, it's kind of like a boat as it's accelerating and then it kind of gets on plane. Then you're sort of on plane and you can start to think a little bit more about like, okay, like what is really going to make me happy? Because at the end of the day, I think that's the true question, right? And that can take some introspection and, maybe flying a 737 at the end of the day around domestically in the United States for the next 25 to 30 years is not going to bring you long-term happiness.
And there's other questions you have to ask yourself. You say, okay, so I'm here. This is a pretty good gig. What happens if I lose my medical? What happens? What does that look like there? And what does that look like at the airlines? Or you get disabled, right? Because it's funny because the disability plan a lot of times at a big corporation is to fit everybody. Our disability plan for the pilots is for the pilots. It's very clear. You're disabled in that fact that you cannot obtain an FAA medical. Well, what if you're disabled and you lose your medical, but you don't fit the rules of that disability plan? Those are some of the things as you get older, you're like, and if that's the kind of stuff that keeps you up at night, then that may be important. And some people say, I don't know, I'll figure it out. I could do a lot of things. If you have a side gig, it's just different for everybody. So
yeah,
questions you have to ask.
Cool. All right. Well, that's going to do it for flight advice. If you've got some advice that you are seeking, you can visit our website, 215podcast.com, and click on the link for the anonymous flight advice forum. As I mentioned before, you can throw in some optional details. It does help us a little bit, and we will do our best to give you some advice. Thanks to everyone that wrote in to the mailbag, to flight advice. Thanks to Timothy P. Pope, Advanced Aircrew Academy, Harvey Watt, Ferris Jet Sales, the Air Comp Calculator, all of the sponsors of the show, our listeners. Thank you for the listeners that came up and said hello in the terminal. And anything else you want to add, Pookie, before we get out of here?
That is it. This episode was absolutely fire tonight.
quintessential 21.5 podcast episode.
We are podcasting from our favorite room.
We are off to dinner. Oh my gosh.
Page jeans, as always.
Look hazy boots.
Hazy boots.
All right, we've moved on from YouTubers to TikTokers. It's
is that what it's
getting
not
out of hand.
Yeah.
All right, from the Westin, this is Dylan signing off. Until next time, remember,
flexibility is the key to air power.
The statements made in this show are our own opinions and do not reflect, nor were they under any direction from any of our employers.